Well, hi. Thanks for giving me a minute of your time. I'm going to be concise and straightforward, cut to the chase. Over the last few days in the state of Wisconsin, there's been a good amount of tension and drama, in particular concerning these guys, face masks. Here's the deal. As of yesterday, Governor Evers has signed an executive order that if you are in a non-private residence indoors, you're required to wear, by Executive Order 82, a face mask. Now, that applies to us as a church because we meet in a non-private residence indoors, and so face coverings required. Now, if you're somebody who stays even remotely connected to what's going on in the world these days, you know that these are kind of a polarizing issue. Fair to say? It's fair to say. Polarizing without a doubt. Here's my plea to you as what I think the Christian response ought to be, and the response of First Baptist Church in Darlington is going to be going forward in this. Whether or not these work, whether or not these are valuable, whether or not these are necessary is probably not the root of the question that we as followers of Jesus are meant to ask. Here's what I think a follower of Jesus is meant to ask. Is there a reason that we might be disobeying God by obeying the laws of man? In fact, I'm reminded there's this interaction in the book of Acts. Acts is the recordings of the early church in first century Jerusalem following the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Christianity has begun, and two of the early church leaders, Peter and John, have gone out preaching the name of Jesus. And the governing authorities of the time come to them, they arrest them, they flog them and beat them, leave them in prison overnight, and they don't know what to do with them. And so their instruction is, do not preach the name of Jesus going forward. And their response in Acts chapter 4 is this. I want to read it to you. Peter and John answered and said to them, whether it's right in the sight of God to give heed to you, the law, rather than God, you be the judge. For we cannot stop speaking about what we have seen and heard. Say, hey, listen, we're going to disobey your law for the sake of proclaiming the gospel. Now, the question is, does disobeying an executive order like this, whether you think it's a great order or whether you think it's a silly order, help us proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ? My answer is, and let me not say my, our answer as a church is unequivocally, no, it doesn't. Here's what we want you to do. We want you to wear a face covering. We want you to wear a face mask and comply with the law. Not because you have to, not because it's a good idea, not because they work or don't work. Again, those things in the context of the debate are not that important to us. Here's what's important to us. We exist to do anything and everything we can to afford us opportunities to tell the world that the only hope that exists for them is in Jesus Christ. And so if I have to lay down every part of my preference and all of the things that are comfortable with me so that I can tell you and proclaim to you the hope that is in Jesus Christ alone, I ought to be willing to do so. And so our desire is going to be that you would comply, not out of some need or reason or ideology as it being right, but because we want to be a people who proclaim Jesus. And on top of that, I'm convinced that sometime in our life, there's going to be a moment where we stand like Peter and John do as believers and say, listen, you judge what you want, do what you want, but we're going to continue to proclaim the name of Jesus, and it will be against the rules, against the law, against the decisions of the governing authorities, and we'll have to stand for that. I want that hill to be one worth dying on. It's not going to be this one. I don't want it to be about our preference or what we think is not worth it for us when it's relatively easy to comply. I want it to be about the good news of Jesus Christ. And listen, maybe you're not a Christian. Maybe you just stumble across this video trying to figure out what church people are going to do in response to this. Here's what I want you to hear and know. Consistent Christianity, biblical Christianity, is one that loves you because Christ loved us enough to lay down his life for us. He loved you enough to lay down his life for you, to make you right with God. And so in that love, we ought to consistently be a people who would lay down what we see as valuable or preferential for the sake of others. And so absolutely, that's our desire. Our desire is, that we love you and we care about you, not because we're something special, but because the Lord loves you and cares about you, lay down his life for you. We hope you have an awesome day. Love you. We hope to talk to you soon.